Hi, my name is ShiVa and you're watching the ShiVa Minute. Now, as you're watching this video, I must assume that you're unfamiliar with modeling in general. To get a basic idea on modeling, I would recommend you to read the site subdivisionmodeling.com, which is a really good tutorial site, and it explains all the basics you have to know and all the techniques. Well, not all of them, but it gives you a great overview. Subdivisionmodeling.com especially deals with subdivision modeling, which we will do in Wings 3D later on. But let's have a look at modeling techniques at first. The oldest one is maybe point by point, which allows you to create coordinates in your 3D package, connect them with lines or edges. These edges will eventually become faces, and these faces will eventually become objects. Now, this technique requires a lot of time and is usually not recommended to users who just got into 3D and want to test out things. Edge extrusion is the next one. This technique extends to the point technique above, which allows you to extrude edges. Extruding means moving the edges to a new coordinate and to fill the space between the old position and the new position with faces. The third one, and maybe the one we will use the most, is box modeling, which allows you to shape a model out of a primitive, in most cases a cube or a sphere, detail it, and then subdivide it. What all this means will be explained later. Freeform sculpting is a completely different approach to modeling, which can be compared to a digital ball of clay that you have in your digital hand, and you detail it with tools like knives, etc. to give it a realistic look. Now, those models are usually much too high res, much too high poly to use in game directly, but you will use those techniques later in episode 5, I believe, or 4, to detail your model with a normal map and specular map. If you want to learn more, check out the site subdivisionmodeling.com. Now I've opened up one of my favorite modelers, Wings 3D, which is in fact subdivision modeling software. Wings 3D is generally controlled with a mouse. With a right click, brings up the context menu, left click selects, and the middle mouse button controls the camera. Let me create a cube real quick. Let's right click and select cube. Now this cube is composed of vertices, space to deselect, edges, space to deselect, faces, and is of course an object. Now I want this cube to be twice as high as it is. So I could go to faces, select the face, and right click, move it up along the y-axis. I could also extrude the face, right click, extrude along the normal or the y-axis, which is exactly the same in this case, to move it up and create some faces in between the old coordinates here and the new ones here. Most of the time you will be extruding faces instead of duplicating geometry. If I add another cube, cube 2, move it up, I will also create a cube that's twice as high. However, I will have two objects in my geometry graph, and if I switch to smooth view with the tab key, I will see some shading that's not desired. Let's remove that and instead extrude, tab, and you see the shading's correct. So use extrusion whenever possible. Subdivision surfaces got its name from the subdivision process, which I will demonstrate now. If I wanted to give this cube a round edge, I could select the edge, bevel it, that's B on my hotkey, and then have a rounder edge. I could do this quite some time until I have a really round edge. Alternatively, I could just select the faces I want to round and press subdivide, which is S as my hotkey, to get a really nice rounding. Now you notice the arrows I will produce with this technique. I'll just undo them. Add something called hard edges, which is done with the Wings command auto smooth. The small rectangle on the right side shows me that I have additional options that I can adjust. Click that and set the crease angle to 60. Now this is the angle limitation for the smoothing process. Let's click that. Notice that my upper area got this orange marker on the edge, while my faces here stay untouched. So I can select those faces now, smooth them with the S key without modifying all the other stuff. Switch to smooth, and there I got my soft edge. Be careful with subdividing though. I've created 1536 faces out of 6, so this might only be a good idea if you have the chance to calculate normal maps from this high resolution map onto the low resolution mesh like this one. I cannot show you all box modeling techniques here. This would require an additional season just for box modeling. If you have questions, you can go to the website wings3d.com and click on the documentation button. Click on the Wings3D user manual project on Wikibooks, and there you have the complete Wings3D user manual.